So just a little bit of disclaimer about what all we're going to be talking about today. I am a loan officer. My moniker is Mark the Mortgage Marine. My NMLS number is 211-4896. But everything that we're going to be talking about today is very much based on my opinion, and people should take it as such.
Same here. My name is Julio Fuentes. My real estate number is 341131. Everything I will say is just my opinions. Whether it's finances, whether it's anything, just take it, with a grain of salt. Contact the attorney or contact the financial advisor regarding anything that has to do. These are just our opinions only.
Yeah, we're just here to help. All right, my name's Mark. I go by Mark the Mortgage Marine, Arrington. My NMLS number is 211-4896. I'm a loan officer. Generally from my previous life in the special operations team, one of my favorite jobs is being the instructor of instructors, right? So when I'm having to get up there and I'm trying to instruct future instructors on how to talk, we always talked about this concept called like bona fides. And what the bona fides was, it was like, cool, why do you rate to stand up in front of these group of soon-to-be special operators and tell them what is going to be a real life experience that they need to listen to you in the future? So why should they listen to you, and why do you rate to be taken to them right now, right? So generally, that's kind of how I usually like to start these things off. It, personalizes yourself to your audience. A lot of people kind of already know who I am. I do this a couple times, but, just for instance, I always, go as, my name is Mark. I'm a retired Marine special operator. Did 18 years in the Marine Corps. Last 10 was in special operations. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, which was very beneficial for me, and grateful to the Marine Corps for being able to provide me those opportunities to do so. And very much to date, I found my new purpose going forward is getting people into houses, because I fundamentally believe that the more people that own their house is the more people that are going to take ownership of that house. And I think of it as the concept of like these little circles that just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more people that take ownership of their homes are eventually going to take ownership of our country, so that our country can progress and get better. So that's who I am and why I do what I do.
I'm Julio Fuentes, 24 years old, originally from Modesto, California. Graduated from high school, started selling solar panels. Did that for about 7 months. And then as soon as I turned 19, 2017, I got into the car business. So I was selling cars for Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Did that for a year, learned a lot of hidden secrets in the car industry, credit score, banks, interest, the way just everything works. And it pretty much gave me a good start in life. In 2018, January 8th, so I joined the Marine Corps. I had just turned 20, did 4 years. I got stationed in Camp Lejeune, with 210 Artillery. My MOS was motor transport. Did my time there 4 years. While I was there, I pretty much just a regular Marine, just trying to figure it out and just learning the ropes and trying to find any benefit I can. Got out 2022, January, and then started working at a family restaurant, manage it, and I still worked on the weekends, still grind.
I ate there the other day. It was really good.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
It's quite tasty. Yeah, man.
Thanks
it was
for
delicious.
And now I'm currently a real estate broker / realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Carolina Premier Properties here in Wilmington, North Carolina. So I've been doing that since, got my license August 4th, started selling September after I finished up training, and just been, pushing gas and nonstop, just focus. I'm at 5 properties under contract at the moment, and just, have more in the pipeline, ready to go. And just kind of learning the ropes as well as that, waitering on the side, helping out. I got into the Amazon, selling on Amazon business as well, so I started doing that as well. Still learning the ropes on that, and pretty much just grinding.
So have you ever called anybody to sell them an extended car warranty?
Oh, no.
Okay, sweet. All right, as long as we have that out in the open, right? So why did you become a realtor?
And a lot of people ask me that, and I think the main reason, and I started thinking about that more and more. The more I started thinking about it, the more the answer was why not. I mean, I did car sales, I did solar panel sales. I just been in
it's
sales.
just a natural thing.
Yeah, and I mean, the customer service just comes naturally to me. I mean, I learned that. I don't know. I think growing up selling chocolates, door to door, my mom always taught me just treat others how you want to be treated, and always say hi to everybody, and just have a good good ethics, good work ethics, and start looking into it more. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna just jump into it. I started investing into properties before I got my license, learned the ropes in there, and then when I got my license, I started realizing there's so much opportunities to build wealth, as far as investing, taking advantage of VA loans, networking, big thing, and just it's gold. Once you learn something and you know that there's more information behind it, and for you to knock down those walls, get the doors open, I think the sky's the limit.
And it's a really old business, right? If you think about it, right? I have I like to make the argument of like, which one came first, the merchant or the soldier,
Yeah.
right? And you know what I mean? Who went off first? You know what I mean? It probably was the same person, to be honest with you. Just something happened, and then the soldier had to be a soldier instead of a merchant at the time. But hey, I wasn't around back then.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same deal, man. I kind of thought it was the road less traveled. Typical operator types, they usually, go from doing something that they know and they're very comfortable with to something that is a continuation of their comfort level.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was not a day in my life when I was in the Marine Corps that I ever thought, cool, I'm going to get out and go into finance and be a loan officer, right? Like there's just nothing sexy about that. There's nothing that I thought that's how my life was actually going to progress in that manner. But now that I'm in it, you know what I mean? I very much, man, I can help so many people.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that I help and they just don't really know how to, use finance to their ability it's pretty profound, right? Because, I mean, as we were talking about today, right? So the title of our whole podcast is like, If I Would Have Known, right? And we're really going to like try to dive into that counterfactual. And what a counterfactual is, essentially, if I could take my brain and put it back in, my previous head, right? So I'm 37 years old now. If I could put my brain back in 21-year-old Mark's head, what would I have done differently with the knowledge that I have today? And, I think the fundamental concept behind that is, like there's this, saying called the shoulders of giants, right? And what does that mean to stand on the shoulders of giants? I personally believe that it means that everything that our previous generations have done before us have led us to today, and they pushed us forward, right? For instance, you think about Carl Jung, great philosopher. He got a lot of his stuff from Freud, who got his stuff from further on back. If you think about war, you think about Clausewitz. Clausewitz got a lot of his tactics, techniques, and procedures from Napoleon, and so on and so forth, right? So we're constantly progressing as a civilization going forward, right? And I know that a lot of people think that we're in some sort of bad area right now or whatever else, but I'm a diehard optimist, man.
Yeah.
You're never going to convince me that, I'd rather live 1,000 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty happy with everything right now, right? But essentially, that's our purpose of what we're talking about here today, right? So like, what can we tell this next generation of people that are going to transition, people that are thinking about joining into the Marine Corps? What can we tell them from our own life experiences to make it so that they are better tomorrow, that they're better today, that they make better decisions? Because obviously, I mean, I don't know about your past, but I mean, obviously, everybody makes mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Just looking through, my career, I mean, I was a successful Marine. Picked up Master Sergeant at 16 years. I pushed pretty damn hard.
Yeah,
and pretty much everything I did because, ultimately, like, I always wanted to be number one at everything I did. I wanted to push myself as hard as I physically possibly could. But along the way, you make mistakes. You know what I mean? I wish I would have saved more money. I wish I would have bought more properties. Ultimately, if we can convey that to our audience about, like, making them better from the knowledge that we have through our own experiences, man, why the hell wouldn't you, right?
That's true. I think the biggest mistakes that people make is not having the right knowledge.
Right.
Like in all reality, I mean, I look back, 4 years ago before I joined the Marine Corps, and I'm like, and just looking where I'm at now, would never imagine. And I'm not nowhere where I want to be, and I think it's the same for you. I think this is just the start as well.
Oh, yeah.
Finishing our term, at our time in the Marine Corps, and then, starting all over.
It's a great foundation. It's a great foundation.
And a lot of Marines have trouble with that, and I can see why. Whether deployed or didn't deploy, I can see coming from certain lifestyle and then transferring over to pretty much starting all over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the main thing is setting yourself up for success from day one. And one thing that I always tell Marines is get your finances right. Learn everything you need to learn about buying a car, because you're gonna need a car. Credit cards, how they works, taking advantage of certain credit cards that offer the military. Like, a lot of people don't know, but American Express Platinum, I know it's about $600, give or take, for a year. I mean, if you're active duty,
Yeah, it's free.
or national, yeah, it's national. I think national card. I can't remember, but yeah, it's pretty much free. And
Barclays card, right? So if you're
Yeah.
active duty with the Barclays card, it's 0% interest.
correct.
Right? There's just all these advantages that people just don't really know because they didn't even ask anybody, or their staff sergeant at the time, maybe he was not as financially sound as he could have been.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody has their own the things that they're good at and so on and so forth, and a lot of that is upbringing.
Yeah.
Did you come from people that were smart with money? Did you come with, the conversations around the dinner table? Were they about, finance, or were they about living paycheck to paycheck? And I was blessed in my upbringing.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have to live paycheck to paycheck, which, I'm very thankful for. But a lot of people that join the Marine Corps do.
Yeah, that is true.
The Marine Corps, I mean, they're great at what they do. At the end of the day, and I was sitting in Sergeant Major Tea's retirement ceremony the other day, and the base CG stood up and he gave a speech, and what he talked about was like, the Marine Corps is pretty damn good about putting something out back into the civilian world that was better than what we got or what we got it
Correct.
initially, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, they're going to put out a Marine, and I mean, it's going to be ingrained in him that he needs to have honor, courage, and commitment going forward. And I mean, if you just possess those three core values, man, like, you're ultimately going to get out into the civilian world, and if you keep true to those values, you're probably going to be successful.
Yeah, that is true. I think the work ethic changes, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of, we call it shitbags in the Marine Corps, but in all reality, there's a lot of Marines that were shitbags, were, not the best Marine, but when they came out to the civilian world, they started all over and just took that work ethic, those embodiments that the Marine Corps put in you, and just started, taking off. I mean, there's a lot of successful people, a lot of successful CEOs that were prior military, not just Marine Corps, but just soldier.
Look at the Fortune 500 countries.
Yeah.
You see how many of them are ran by Marines. It's a pretty high percentage. It's actually, when I heard the statistic, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I came from a family that, we lost, our houses. We were moving house to house. We lived in apartments. Finances weren't the best, and in the Hispanic community, the one thing that a lot of Hispanic parents kind of move away from is the military, because they automatically think, oh yeah, you're gonna die. You're gonna, and I remember having that conversation with my parents, and I was telling them, like, no, like, this is the next step that I need to do. Every job, every step I was doing, every next thing I was doing, I was trying to make it better. And there's something in the back of my head just kept telling me, like, no, Julio, this is the next route you got to take. And I never understood why. And then I did it and told my parents, like, no, there's a lot of opportunities, and they started realizing, like, it's not just war, it's not just, what they portray it to be. And I joined, and then got duty station and somewhere where I didn't want to originally go. And then I was wondering, why did I get sent here? And there's always the why. And then down the road, and now I'm like, okay, now I know why. Now I know why I'm here. Now I know why this happened. And you learn that, looking back at it.
So starting from the jump, starting from when that Marine Corps recruiter came and talked to you, what would you have done differently today?
I think, so one thing I wish I would have done is have other friends that were already in the Marine Corps and have their input, have them tell me, like, hey, look, what should I look out for? What do I need to know? What is the Marine Corps like? Obviously, I'm not going to know, but talking to a recruiter, a lot of times they'll tell you, because they're trying to recruit you. That's their job. They're trying to have quotas. They're trying, and I understand that.
It's a very hard job.
And my recruiter, honestly, man, and a lot of people, my recruiter was my best friend.
Yeah.
My recruiter was a good, he was just, we were really close. And I think, and then his gunny that was in charge, he was a Sergeant Reyes, and his gunny, I got Gunny P. He had a conversation with me because I was jumping from office to office trying to figure out, and he had a conversation to me that pretty much changed my thoughts on it. And the more times I kept telling myself, don't join, and the more times I started researching it, finding out, okay, what it's about, and talking to Reyes, talking to Gunny P, and them telling me, a lot of, good things about it, I was like, okay, I'm more motivated now to sign up. But at the same time, I wish I would have studied more for the ASVAB, would have kind of, prepared myself for a higher score, because once you have a higher score, then your job opportunities open up.
They open up quite a bit. Yeah, I would think, going back to 2004 when I joined, after 9/11, I knew I was going to do something in the military. I come from a long line of like physicians, like my whole family is a bunch of like doctors, MDs, and I knew I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to follow in that footstep, not because, I did not respect them. I very much respect them. They're very selfless people, like doctors are selfless human beings. But I knew I didn't want to follow in those footsteps. So I kind of took the polar opposite. I'm like, cool, my dad's a healer. I'm going to go, be an ass kicker, go be a Marine Corps, go be a Marine. So, I joined, midway through my senior year. I was, a misguided youth to an extent, right? On my own volition. It was my fault. I was making choices. They just weren't the right choices at the time. So I obviously, would have changed a lot of those choices that I made and probably just been a better just student, child, and everything else, right? Stayed in sports, not started doing dumb shit like I was doing at the time, right? I had a lot of second chances going up, and ultimately it was like, hey, here's the Marine Corps. It's probably going to behoove you to do this so that you don't continue down that path. Yeah, so it doesn't continue down this path. It's going to lead to probably iron bars eventually, which is not where I want to be.
I think we all have that like the back of our head.
Right. It's that inner critic or, it's I mean, everybody, can give in to their own, misgivings about, what choices they want to make or whatever else. But
I think that's something that, not to cut you off, that's something that, like before, and I think, I didn't kind of talk about it, but before, I mean, growing up, I just played soccer. I was just a regular, Hispanic kid. My parents, they came to this country, obviously, illegally. And, they got their residency, they got, their citizenship.
That's awesome.
Started playing soccer, took that serious. And Modesto, California is pretty much like a city where it's known for a lot of, auto theft, meth.
Carjackings and everything else.
That's what they call it, meth theft, though. And just drugs, a lot of drugs and stuff like that over there. My parents took me, always tried putting me in sports and in soccer and to be away from that, even though I had friends that were in that lifestyle. At the same time, they were living two lifestyles where, part-time they were over here doing this and that, and part-time, they were playing soccer. And the good soccer players, man. Like, these guys had potential to go D1, stuff like that. At the same time, their lifestyle over here, poverty over here, this and that, was kind of pushing them away. And then, I don't know, I just had this, like, hustle mindset. And then, towards the end of senior year, I started throwing parties. And I think I told you, I don't know if I told you.
No, you didn't. I did the same thing.
And I started throwing parties, and I was a kid that was just out and about 4 or 5 in the morning, just being stupid, man. Yeah. And I got into this, throwing parties. The first one was success. Second one was success as well. And then I started hiring security. Started getting DJs hitting me up. I did advertisement flyers. Getting 300, 400 retweets on Twitter, 200 reposts on Instagram. Word was getting out, and I started charging $3, $4 for people to come in, and I was making $3-4 grand a night, and I was doing that. So towards the end of my senior year, while I was selling solar panels and then got into the car industry, I was kind of doing that, and taking that money and just blowing it, but at the same time I was paying down debt, and going back to the dealership. When I started realizing how money works and credit and finance, I got out of that car that I was drowning in, got out of debt right before the Marine Corps. And then, started kind of over. And that's why I joined the Marine Corps, because I knew, like, oh, fuck, if I don't get my shit straight, I'm going to, either be locked up, dead, or just not have anything going for myself.
Yeah, so it's like you had, like, an internal, like, moral compass, for instance, right? Something saying that, hey, I am not doing what I should be doing right now. I need to, like, make a course correction. And the Marine Corps provided you with that course correction. It did me as well.
Yeah.
100%, man. I was very happy that I was joining the Marine. I loved every day that I was in the Marine Corps. It's a great organization with a bunch of great human beings in it. Hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have chose the job that I wanted to do right off the bat. It took me a long time to get to the job that I wanted to do. I think I was in the Marine Corps for like 8-9 years by the time I actually got over to special operations, which is where I initially wanted to go anyways. So I would definitely, tell if you are thinking about joining the Marine Corps, talk to a Marine beforehand,
definitely.
and get that type of insight of, you know, what it is like or whatever else. Obviously, they're not going to sit there and tell you a bunch of boot camp stories or whatever else. Boot camp is a great experience. It's something to be done one time.
Yeah.
Make it through, beat your chest, call yourself a Marine afterwards. But, you know, ultimately, like, you know, the Marine Corps, it's going to be a little bit different based off of whatever job you do. And then frankly,
true.
there's a job for everybody in the Marine Corps, because we're pretty much like, other than, you know, driving our own ships, we pretty much do it all. So, you know, with things that I should have known, you know, I probably would have made sure what was on the contract was what I wanted to do right off the
Yeah.
bat, and not, you know, kind of thought I was going to be able to go try out for something else right off the bat, because that was not the case. And it took me a couple years to get to where I wanted to be at ultimately anyways. But, you know, it all kind of worked out in the long run. So, you know, fast forward, right? So moral compass points north, right? End up joining the Marine Corps, kind of straighten your life around a little bit. Of course, you know, to the IRS, you were underage at the time. You didn't know what you were doing. You don't know any back taxes on that, hopefully.
No. Finances.
Yeah. We pay our taxes. We
Yes,
pay our
sir.
taxes. You know, but, you know, in your time in the Marine Corps, like, what are some of the things that, you know, opportunities that were in your face and you didn't open that door?
I think school. And my thoughts on school is like going to college. I mean, by all means, get your degree if you want to do it, especially if you're getting, you know, Marine Corps is paying for it. A lot of people don't know. Some people do is that you can, without using your GI Bill, you can pretty much have your school paid for, your tuition paid for and stuff like that.
Tuition assistance. TA.
Yeah, TA. You know, and there's a lot of opportunities with certain universities that understand, you know, your schedule as far as, you know, pretty much once a week you can attend and get stuff done, working around your schedule. And those classes are a lot shorter compared to your traditional, from my understanding. And pretty much, you know, get your degree within 2 years. I think you got your degree.
I got my degree pretty fast. You know, I was very blessed when I was in the Marine Corps. I ended up getting my bachelor's degree and my master's degree while I was in. And I mean, that opportunity is there. It's just, there's tons of opportunities there that are presented to you in the Marine Corps. It's just that you actually have to pursue them. And it's not just going to be like, cool, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in the Marine Corps. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do in the Marine Corps, and I'm going to push a little bit further, right? And I think, I would want to say that I was always the type of person that always pushed myself a little bit further. But, you know, hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have pushed myself even a little bit harder. You know, and you mentioned about, you know, tuition assistance, getting your degree while you were in, and everything else. Another thing that I wish I would have done, and I tell all my guys, especially, you know, I'm a loan officer now, so a lot of people talk to me about, you know, how do I use my VA loan and everything else. And I will fundamentally tell them, like, I wish I would have bought a townhouse or whatever I needed at the time.
Duplex, multifamily.
Whatever I needed at the time in every single base that I was at. Because, I mean, I think throughout my 18 years that I was in, I mean, I was in Yuma, I was in Pendleton, Miramar, I was in Rhode Island, Mississippi.
There's equity in those houses now.
And North Carolina. Well, you know, hindsight being 2020, I bought houses as I was going through, but I didn't keep them. You know, I'd keep them, I'd rent them out for a couple years after I left, and I'd be like, oh, this isn't worth it, and I'd sell it, and so on and so forth. I mean, straight kick myself in the ass today, right? Because, I mean, shoot, I would have so much equity in all of those houses after, you know, building equity for 12 years, because I was a barracks rat, obviously, for like my first 5 or 6 years in the Marine Corps. But you know, and you can do that. You can use your VA loan. You can sit there and like, cool, I'm going to go buy a house when I'm stationed in Pendleton, because I know I'm going to be stationed in Pendleton for probably 3 years, and then I'm probably going to go to another coast, right? So I'm going to go do something else, be an instructor, do something else, right? And then in 3 years from then, go buy another place, right? And what people don't understand is, your VA loan, for the most part, has a lower interest rate than pretty much any other product because it's backed by the VA. Secondly, it's 100% financing. So now you're talking about being able to set up future income-producing properties without you having to put any down payment down, and you have a very low interest rate, because most people kind of get this, but an investment property is always going to be at a greater risk to an investor or a mortgage company or whatever else than a primary residence. So you can go live in these things as a primary residence while you're stationed there.
Correct.
Right? And then when you get stationed someplace else, because you get orders, which happens all the time in the Marine Corps, you go someplace else and you go buy another house. And guess what's always going to be present in a Marine Corps town?
And you can rent it.
can rent it.
You can rent it, and you don't have to manage it if you don't want to manage it. You can get these companies that will be in charge of it. Obviously, they're going to take a percentage off of it, but they'll take care of all repairs and everything that needs to be replaced. Obviously, you're going to have to fund that stuff or make a certain account. And a lot of people don't realize that you can get up to 4 units. 4 units is residential. Anything above 4 units, it starts getting into commercial.
You can occupy one of the units, and you meet the occupancy clause. So you occupy one of the units within 60 days. The other 3 units you can rent out. And then some people, you can rent out each room. I mean, a room right now here in Wilmington, North Carolina, what I see on Facebook Market all the time, they're going for like $700. 4 rooms, do the math. That's you can get creative with these things, and while being in the guidelines that you need to be in. Yeah.
And then another thing that a lot of people don't know is, and you know about this, is once you're out of the military and you use your VA loan, there's a even while you're in, but there's a funding fee. Now that funding fee can be waived. The funding fee is a certain percentage. You probably know the percentage.
Yep. So the initial funding fee, and this is for active duty service members or service members that have gotten out or veterans that do not have any VA disability rating. The initial one is 2.3%. The subsequent use is 3.6%. This also goes down pretty exponentially if you put down 5 or 10%. If you put down 5%, it's 1.65. And if you put down more than 10%, I think it drops to 1.45. Don't quote me on that, but that's about the percentage rates. But those get incorporated into the loan. But either way, that's quite a bit of money that you can probably not have to pay if, once you get out, you have a VA disability rating.
Correct. And a lot of people don't, that's, when I bought my first property with the VA loan, I had 3 months left. So that, it was about $10,000. And that gets added onto your loan. Yeah. It's not technically coming out of your pocket up front, but it gets added to your loan. And that, trying to think.
It adds up. Yeah. It adds up at the end of the day. It's still a great product because you're not paying mortgage insurance on it. So essentially the VA funding fee negates your mortgage insurance because it's actually a benefit, which a lot of people don't understand what a benefit is. And another thing that even I thought coming up is cool, I can only have one VA loan at a time.
Yeah, that's right? What I thought too.
Everybody thinks they can only have one VA loan at a time, and that is not accurate. Yeah. You can use something called bonus entitlement, which is exactly what we're talking about. So you don't have to go refinance your VA loan just to move to use another VA loan in the future, right? Obviously, if you have a $700,000 house in California, you're probably going to end up having to use another loan product when you go because you've used up all of your eligibility. But if you're in Camp Lejeune and you buy a $250,000 house, you still have a lot of eligibility for your next duty station. So essentially, you could do 2 VA loans, 3 VA loans, and you could just base hop and set up investment properties as you go along. And I think they say statistically, one income producing house. You need 1 per college student. So what do Marines do? Marines have babies. Yeah. Let's be honest. Marines like to have kids, and you're setting up for future success. All right. Obviously, it takes a little bit of forward thought, forward planning, which is hindsight being 2020. We have a really weird concept of that as just humans. It's something weird about it. We don't foresee ourselves in the future. We always want to either try to act like we're in the present and or the past. But at the end of the day, none of us are coming out of this alive, obviously. But you always can set your future self up for more success. And I wish I would have done that as I went through. Another thing that we were going to talk about was TSP. I know that you were pretty good about TSP as you were going through, or did you kind of pick up later on? Because I was a dumbass.
Yeah. No, I kind of picked that up later on. From the start, I was always investing into it, and I didn't realize how much I was investing into it. I was my checks as a PFC. I know my checks were pretty. It wasn't a lot, but I was like, why is it a lot less? And realizing I was putting more money into TSP, not understanding the difference between traditional Roth with the TSP, and then down the road, okay, I got access. I went on the website, made an account. I was like, okay, started learning the ropes, asking questions. The group of friends that I have a solid group of friends, and we still talk to this day. And each one of us always brought something different to the table. Hey, I learned that you can do this with the TSP, move it from A fund or G fund to this fund for this reason, and this covers this. Hey, did you know if you invest in the stock market and do it this way? Hey, did you know about renting your cars out? Just everybody always brought something regarding any sort of investment. And with the TSP, I had that Gunny P. He got stationed over here, and we still communicate. and talking. He had told me pretty much if he would have started from the beginning and moved those funds to a certain move his money to certain funds, the amount of money he would have had now would have been doubled, if not, like way more than what it is. And I think the Marine Corps needs to, or Marines in general, need to find out from the start how it works, what's the process, get access to your accounts online, and it's real simple, and then start figuring out which funds are going to produce more in the long term. And just invest your money in there. I mean, you're not going to see it in your check. I mean, that's already taken out prior from.
Yeah, you already like it's not money that you're losing at that point, right? Because you never really they're matching in your concept, you're not really losing it at the end of the day. Same. I went in there thinking I was going to be Uber investor. I was going to do all this stuff on my own, and I would be able to get more interest on my money that I invested than the TSP was going to be able to provide, right? So honestly, I was just arrogant at the time because I really wish I didn't start investing into the TSP when I'd already been in the Marine Corps, I think, for like 6 years. So that's 6 years of investments.
Yeah, and it compounds, so people don't understand that.
Right, compound interest.
And it's not the amount of money, it's the time.
Yep.
It all has to do with time.
Yeah, and I mean, I missed out on 6 years for doing it. And, I later on met my best friend. His name's James Green. And he told, he was like, hey, man, I had a staff sergeant when I was coming up. He was an infantry guy, came up in the infantry, did Fallujah and, some other things. And then, he's just like, hey, my staff sergeant at the time said, cool, whatever you make on deployment, put half of it in TSP and then just blow their other half. Who gives a shit, right? And he's like, what are you talking about? I can save half and just blow their other half? He's like, yeah. And he did that. And I mean, he is very financially stable at this point because he put so much money into the TSP and he invested so much of his, tax-free money into the TSP that now is able to develop interest in everything else. And it just totally sets him up for success, man. And it's just a great program. Obviously, when you get out, you can do a TSP rollover. I don't know if you did that or not. I did, so I can continue to contribute to it. But, at the end of the day, it was a very safe investment, and I really wish I would have started a lot earlier investing into it and not, thought I knew best, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if it's a benefit and you're not taking that benefit, then shame on you. Shame on me at that point. But, the guys that are joining now are the guys that don't have a TSP, and I still see this today as a loan officer. One of the questions I always ask is cool, you have a TSP. Not because I want them to take money out of the TSP, but it's always good in a file for a mortgage to show that you have reserves, right? Yeah. I have more money that, push comes to shove, something crazy happens, and all of a sudden, I'm out of a job or whatever else. Yeah, you got funds. It makes it a lot better that I know that I can pay my mortgage for the next 3 years off of my reserves or whatever, however many reserves you have. But a lot of guys, man, I'll be like, dude, you've been in for 20 years and you don't have a TSP? Bro, start now at least, dude. You know what I mean? Definitely all the guys that are going in, if you haven't started investing in the TSP, it is my opinion that you should start because you don't know where you're going to be at in the future. And,
civilians, a lot of civilians don't know TSP stands for Thrift Saving Plan. Pretty much like a 401k. Yep. It's pretty much what it is for. I should have said from the start because a lot of people aren't going to understand.
There's Roth and traditional. I don't really want to deep dive into it too much because I don't want to give out information that's not totally accurate. But yeah, at the end of the day, hindsight being 2020, 100% wish I would have started investing in that. All my deployments that I went on, I wish I would have just shoved everything into the TSP. All of the re-enlistment bonuses that I got, man, I wish I would at least put half into the TSP. Obviously, man, everybody likes things, right? We have to enjoy ourselves in the present. Everybody likes cars and whatever else, but maybe go buy that $10,000 car instead of the $50,000 car and put a little bit aside so that you can, in the future set yourself up for a little bit more success.
That's something that I really want to touch on, and it comes down to living below your means. A lot of people, the saying that goes, keeping up with...
keeping up with the Joneses?
Yeah. And we have this ideology that we have to drive this car. And don't get me wrong, I was in that position, back then. We had to drive this car because we were going to get a certain, profile as in,
a stigma or something?
Yeah, a certain stigma. And in all reality, I started living below my means. Once I realized the value of money, the definition and understand, you have to understand money. And by understand is not saying, it just pays for this. No, you have to understand that what money means as in investing it and having a return. If not, if you don't have your money work for you, you're always going to work to get that money, plain and simple. And if you're buying these expensive cars, you have no investments in place. You know, you're always going out to eat. You're always, financing everything through credit cards. Like, you're keeping up with, with the peers around you. You're not having your priorities straight. And then I think once you understand that, once you learn that, the mental health, the mental, like, your pockets, your bank account is going to be a lot healthier. I got tired of living paycheck to paycheck. Live below means I drive a 05 Toyota Avalon. I bought it for $2,000. It gets me to point B. And I'm okay with that. I don't have any car debt because my main focus is investing that into properties, into the stock market, into, 401k, into whatever it is, because I'm looking at the long-term vision behind it. I read a book, from Patrick Bet-David, and it's some guy that I really, like watching. Podcast, listening to his book. It's called Always Staying 5 Steps Ahead. It's like a chess game. You always want to be 5 steps ahead from your competition. So whatever they're doing, you always want to be 5 steps ahead. My competition is everybody around me, and same with the real estate business, same with the loan officer business, same with anything you do in the Marine Corps. You're always competing. Right. Yeah. You're always competing for everything.
It's pretty instilled in you.
Yeah, and it's just the nature of the game. It's all, people respect it.
And competition's not bad,
yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, you can learn from competition. You can learn from, like, cool. And I think a lot of people, like, kind of misconstrued what competition is there has some, like, negative connotation behind it. And that's not accurate, right? At the end of the day, like, if I'm competing against you, right? Me and you are, like, having a friendly conversation. I see how much money we can save this month or whatever else. Those are good things.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if you're trying to be, like, cutthroat and be like, oh, I'm 5 steps ahead of you because I just screwed you over in 4 different ways, it's probably not going to benefit you in the future. But, competition's good, man. Competition, like, pushes you to do good things. And, transitioning out, man, the more that you actually kind of can maintain a mindset to, your previous, operational planning or whatever else, man, if you can make parallels from the things that you have done in your past to your present that can lead into your future, it's the faster you can pick up on things. And that's something that I think that I've always been pretty good at, right? I'm like, cool, like, oh, what you're saying is this is like this, paraphrase or whatever else. And you make parallels, and the faster you can make that parallel, the faster you can use, some sort of prior experience to progress you forward in whatever situation you find yourself in the future. Because let's be honest, like, life throws curveballs at you, right? What's the saying? You plan and God laughs.
I've heard of that before.
Yeah, you plan and God laughs because Murphy's always going to be there.
You want to get
but having a plan's not bad.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I mean, I just, like, and you're right. It's not a competition. It's not, like, in a respectful way, in a good way. You want your friend, you want your business partner, you want people around you, your team, to be always on their toes. You want to embody some sort of, hey, look, this is the plan, this is the vision, this is how we're going to get there, and hold yourself accountable as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's good to spoil yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying this, you can't buy that car, but my goal, and this is my thoughts and my opinion, is, I want to buy those properties so they can pay for that lifestyle, and leave that in there. And I always love sharing the information to my friends, to anybody that wants to learn, because I know some people, like, they feel like they're better than you and don't want to give you that information because, oh, no, like, you can't learn that. Only me. And I'm like, no, man, like, everybody got to eat. Everybody has to eat. Everybody wants to learn, You can give people this information, and that one word, one sentence you tell them can change their whole life. In all reality, like, you just never know. I mean, it's not going to cost you anything, I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And I think that, I think a lot of people kind of try to keep things to themselves out of fear. Right? Like, oh, God, if I tell you, like, what I'm going to do in the future, maybe you do it before me and you rip off my idea or some other crap like that, man. And I don't think it's like that, right? I mean, I think we can all, like, progressively go forward. It doesn't have to be that I am somehow in front of you or so on and so forth. We all experience life a little bit different. But I think ultimately, like, and that's the whole purpose of us talking right now today, right? Like, how do we help people that are where we were at 15 years ago so that when they're 15 years in the future, now they can help so many more people. And, through my studies of getting my master's degree, there's this theory called chaos theory, right? And then in a segment of chaos theory, there's this concept called the butterfly effect. And a lot of people kind of understand the butterfly effect. There was a movie, I think it had like Ashton Kutcher in it or something like that. And the movie actually paid pretty good about what it meant, right? And essentially what it means is, one small act of kindness can lead to an infinite abundance of different changes and everything else in the future, right? So like that one, person that you helped out that you didn't have to, the knowledge that you were able to give, one of your peers or one of your subordinates, there is no telling what he does with that information and then can progress him, his family, and everybody else in the future. And ultimately, man, that's, if I can leave this earth knowing that I've helped out more people than, helped me out, that'd be profound, right?
Even your Marines under you. Like that's the main thing that, what I wish I would have known is, one, I wouldn't say I wish I would have known, but is that a lot of NCOs, staff NCOs, they're pretty much who the younger Marines look up to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they got to get really engaged in how the world's working, how finance is working, the value of success. And I don't know if that's them, doing their homework and learning that stuff, or the Marine Corps should start, having more and more programs available. And sometimes they do, and just Marines don't want to take it serious.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, like, as I was getting out, all the information I knew or I was finding out, I was trying to let the new Marines coming in, like, hey, man, like, don't do this, do that. This is the reason why. Hey, start on your what's it called, the courses to pick up rank.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the name behind it.
Yeah, Marine Corps Institute, MCIs.
Yeah, your
right?
your MCIs.
Yeah, the
like,
red
hey,
MCIs. I'm dating myself right now. Yeah, no, they probably are all online.
Knock that out of the way, get it out of the way. Hey,
start a college course.
yeah.
Right, read a damn book a week. Right.
Or podcast, or not podcast, Audible.
Audiobook. Yeah, dude. Audible
That
was a
changed
game changer for me.
everything,
100%. Yeah, it definitely was. And I mean, I use another program called Blinkist, which literally, talks about a book in 15 minutes. And then from that 15 minutes, you're like, cool. Like, I understand the main concept of the book. Do I want to deep dive into it or not? And another aspect of that is like, dude, I wish I would have just been more curious about everything and kept my mind as open as I possibly could have, right? And I mean, now, as I progressed in years and as I got my master's degree, man, like I was able to just be like, cool, I'm interested in that topic. Let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes into that topic. You know what I mean? And whatever interests you. And I do this with my kids now. Like, I talk to my daughter and I'm like, A, whatever YouTube thing you're watching, what's the plot? And if there's no plot, she changes it.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I'm like, well, what are you into, right? She's like, for instance, she was like, well, I'm into Norwals. I was like, I don't know much about Norwals, but I'm going to get you 6 books on freaking Norwals. And, you can tell me all about Norwals, right? Mm-hmm. And once you feel like you're an expert on Norwals, cool, what else do you want to learn about, right? Like just constantly seek out and pursue knowledge and just stay curious, man. Don't let anybody tell you that, no, this is the way it is. That's not the way it is, right? No. Socrates' main point was, I know that I know nothing. It's everybody else that doesn't realize that. You know what I mean? And, it's just that constant curiosity of like, is this the way the world is, right? How do I know that this is truth? What is truth? So on and so forth. And dude, just deep dive into whatever the hell interests you. If it's cars, guns, finance, or whatever else, just pursue it for greatness, right? And just go as deep as you can down the rabbit hole, man. I don't know. I just pick out something and I just dive into it, and then I'll read like 4 or 5 books on it. I'm like, all right, cool. I think I'm nerd level knowledge on this, and then I change and I go do something else.
And I think a lot of I have this mindset where I can learn as much from you as well as you can learn as much from me. Doesn't matter your position, what you've done, what you make in life, or what your rank is, or position in a company. It can be a homeless person on the street can teach you so much that you have never known about because you never know where that person came from. Mm-hmm. And in the Marine Corps, there's so many Marines that come from different lifestyles, different places around the world, and have experiences that you never had and you can learn from. And a lot of, staff NCOs, officers should take more, have more these conversations, like as in, in learning from them as well. I mean, I remember I had told a captain, he's a good officer, that I knew a lot of information regarding cars, buying cars, selling cars, and I wanted to give that information out to Marines so they don't make mistakes. Someone else probably was a realtor before they joined the Marine Corps. They probably can give out, more information regarding buying a house. Mm-hmm. Just different jobs, different careers, different places in life they came from that are valuable. Every Marine, every person is valuable in their own ways.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you never know where somebody's past and where it led to them in their present. Mm-hmm. And then I mean, just to kind of go off from that is, reach out and maintain the relationships that you have. It's something I say on every single podcast or anything that I'm always on, right? Because I think fundamentally we get a little lazy sometimes, and we stop maintaining those relationships. And the more that you can maintain those relationships, man, I think the better that we are just all going to become. Yeah. And which is just selflessness at the end of the day, right? Like, take a little bit of time and ask somebody else how their day was. And it's
little things like that.
It's just it's a very small thing, man, but it's profound, because you never know how that person's day is. They could be having the most fantastic day in the world, or they could be like, cool, man, yesterday was my last good day, which, is not a good place to be. But, ultimately, we've been talking here for a little bit. So let's, just to summarize, right? So, if I would have known three things.
If I would have known to invest my money from the start, to take advantage of any sort of educational purposes that can be free, just to pick up my knowledge and game, as far as tuition and starting that from the start and getting it over with, if I would have known, I'm trying to think, there's a lot of things.
One more, come on.
Just stop living on base. Don't live on base, and like you said, take advantage of that VA loan while you're still in. And if you plan on doing 20 years, buy the house, rent it out down the road. And there's a saying that a lot of people say in the real estate world is you're always gonna be paying a mortgage, whether it's yours or someone else's.
Correct.
Living on base, you're just giving your money back to the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm. What's the interest rate on a rental?
100%.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's just a simple concept, right? It's 100%. And I mean, unless you think that, in the future that you're going to be upside down on your house, right? Which I think if you looked back over the history, I mean, there's been ups and downs in the market and everything else. But obviously, if you buy a house in a place that you want to live, other people are going to want to live there, right? Yeah. It's the Warren Buffett style of investing, right? He buys shit that he likes. So if he likes it, he assumes somebody else likes it.
I forgot that in there. Yeah, TSP definitely move the money right away to figure out where it needs to go and leave it there and start investing as much money. Make a budget. Stop spending money on tobacco, on cigarettes and all this.
Yeah,
like
wasteful.
Like all these drinks that just. Yeah. And go to the chow hall.
I love the chow hall. I love the chow hall so damn much. You can eat as much as you want. The food ain't bad. And back when I was trying to be a little beefcake Marine, being as jacked as I could be. Now I'm like 175. Three things, man. If I could put my brain back in 21-year-old Mark's head, try to invest at least 20% of my money every single year over end. I would have bought an investment property in every base that I would have been at, and I would have pushed myself in every situation that I ever found myself in to try to be the most humble person in the room.
Yeah.
I think if I probably would have done those.
Open-minded.
Right. Yeah. Open-minded and stay curious.
And that's the main thing, that just pick people's brains.
Right.
Just pick people's
Ask questions.
brains. That's the most valuable thing you can get. You can learn something. Learn one thing new every single day, and take that, and reflect at the end of the week what you learn and how can you be different the next week.
Well, I hope our audience, hopefully gains something out of us at the end of the day. They can at least look at the mistakes that we made and not make those same mistakes.
This won't be. I don't want this to be, the only podcast. I think we have a lot of information that we want to give out.
Oh yeah,
it's just the introduction of who we are and what we have, and there's a lot more to talk about that can benefit, not only people in general, prior military, active duty, anybody.
Yeah, well, give us a call. Like, obviously, I'll put my number and my contact information. Yeah. I have a network called Raider Realty Group where I try to promote for, fellow service members and veterans and their spouses that are in the real estate community. So if there's anything that y'all, I can do for anybody in the future, please reach us out. And if if the audience wants more information, man, hey, put a topic up. We'll deep dive into it. Leave a comment, and we'll try to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah. You guys can reach me on Instagram is Real Estate NC. TikTok is Fuentes TV. And to go back on that, I forgot to mention that while I was making TikTok videos, and there's a couple videos that went viral, and there's one that hit 12 million views.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy.
I gained thousands of followers, man, and a lot of people just ask me questions all the time, and I love answering these questions. Fuentes TV on TikTok, Real Estate NC on Instagram, Julio Fuentes on Facebook, and I'm licensed in North Carolina. But if you have any questions regarding anything in general, doesn't matter whether it's North Carolina, or other states, I can definitely guide you or find an answer for you. If I don't know something, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, and then we forgot to mention, me and Julio, we're both part of the Veterans Business Collective.
Correct.
And what the Veterans Business Collective does is it leverages, our involvement in the community and our veteran community in order to give us a sense of purpose going forward. And also really just, if you're thinking about getting out and you're thinking about getting into business, man, give one of us a call, show up to one of our monthly meetings, and you're going to be well taken care of. And once again, it's that whole concept of the shoulders of giants, right? Everybody that is part of that collective wants you to be successful. So, show up at one of our monthly meetings, reach us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or just give me a call, and we'll be able to set everything up for you, man. But hey, thanks for talking, man. I think it's been a great, right? 45 minutes is done.